Coming to you live from downtown Detroit, this is Benzinga's PreMarket Prep with your host, Joel Elconin.
This is a volatile puppy here, isn't it?
And Dennis Dick.
I'm bidding a penny. I will buy the stock for a penny.
With everything you need to start your trading day.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this Tuesday edition of Benzinga's Pre-Market Prep. Spencer Israel here with Joel Elconin and not Dennis Dick. Dennis is on vacation. Just Spencer. Just Joel and I today. Where am I at? Jason Raznick is on a plane right now, so no Jason today. But just Joel and myself. We are joined by not one, not two, not three, four guests today. Our first guest will be up at 8:15. Nicola Duke, she's a forex trader. At 8:35, we are joined by Tracy Shuchart. She's a commodities trader. And then at 9, we're joined by Kate Stalter. She's more of a longer-term investor. And then at 9:15, another one of our listeners joins the show, Angie Baby, in the chat at premarket.benzinga.com. She will join us at 9:15. Real quick, this week's shows is dedicated to the Benzinga Women's Wealth Forum, March 21st. If you go to bzforum.com and you go to the register page and you type in the discount code PMP, as in pre-market prep, you can get a discounted ticket to the Benzinga Women's Wealth Forum, March 21st in Boston. Joel, tell us how we're doing this morning in the S&Ps.
Considering the rip-roaring we had a rally over the last 2 days, we're only giving back 3.5 handles. He had a close on Monday at 27.8450. That's your highest close since the big meltdown earlier in the month. Yesterday's high was 27.86. We got through it by 1 point at 27.87, potential double top there. On the downside, 74.50. I don't have much there. Your daily pivot is 27.71. You have crude in the red by 15 cents, 63.76. Look at that $64 level. You got into the 64 handle yesterday. You got up there on a couple days ago, and you also got back up there on February. So knocking on the door, close over 64. Another move up here in crude oil. Gold flat, 1332.80. Silver kind of flat too, up less than a penny at 1663. And Bitcoin back in 5 digits at $10,732.40. That's up 7.5 cents, just working its way into a trading range in Bitcoin. So Spencer, just me and you and a bunch of smart ladies here.
And a bunch of earnings, one that just came out as the show was starting. Macy's out, Q4 EPS, $2.82 versus a $2.71 estimate. So a beat on the EPS. Sales coming in just under the estimate. Also reporting fiscal year sales will be down between 0.5% and 2%. Adjusted EPS for the year coming in line with the estimate, but good Q4 numbers for M.
Spencer, did you used to work at Macy's?
I worked at Macy's. Good memory, yes.
And what did you do there?
They kept me in receiving. They kept me in the back. I worked at Macy's for like 4 months, and I was in the back of the store unloading trucks.
Okay.
Yep. First
time in the 30 handle here since April of 2017. Bad month in May when you went down to 23.50. Your April 28th high was 30.18, but you have exceeded that in pre-market trading. 31.11 high, and we are only 20 cents off that. So you got to go to your dailies here. You got to go back to your dailies in April of last year, or excuse me, maybe the month before, to find some resistance in it. Be keeping an eye on the pre-market high, wherever that is. Back in March, you had a high at 33.67. I don't think we're going to see that. In fact, you just maybe made a high there at 31 and change. So we'll keep an eye on that. Nice move out of Macy's. And are we moving any other retailers? How's Kohl's? Kohl's up $1.90 on the news, just traded $69. Target, how's that doing? That's getting a boost too, up $1.10 at 78 even. Who else do we throw into that? Target.
JWN.
I'm sorry?
Nordstrom.
JWM, a little bit higher end of a store. more talk about them going private. That's trading up $1.45. So some good retail earnings here. Good to see Macy's back in the 30 handle.
Seems like at least right now in this morning, the retail trade is a good trade to make this morning. It's good across the board. That one was enough to drive everyone up this morning.
Okay. All right. And not moving really the S&Ps here. Still hanging out 27.80.50 down $4.
All right, let's move on to let's go to Fitbit because this is a bit of a disaster this morning. So Fitbit, I'll give you those numbers here. Q4 adjusted EPS, a 2-cent loss versus an even estimate, so they missed that by 2 cents. Sales of $570 versus $588 million, so a miss on those Q4 numbers. Fiscal year sales guidance coming in light. Q1 guidance coming in extremely light. EPS guidance for the current quarter coming in well below the estimate. 9-cent loss was the estimate. 18 to 21 cents is what they will actually lose, so they say. Sales guidance for the quarter coming in very, very light as well by about $100 million.
And do you have a Fitbit, Spencer? Did you have one?
Yeah, I have one. I haven't worn it. Broke. I haven't worn one in a while.
Right.
But,
Street leaning the wrong way into this one, folks. You closed near your high of the session yesterday. 561 was the high, 554 close. Big volume, so you had some shorts maybe covering ahead of that number. Went straight down to 454. That marks a new all-time low. But moving up now, off that 4 o'clock open, you're finding support here at the 460, 470 area. Several brackets here, a little bit of a step-up buyer. Earlier this morning, really since 6 o'clock a.m., your buyer stepped up from 465 up to 471. So just seems like, a little shorts here covering. Not sure if we're going to see that pre-market low coming back on the upside. You need to get to 535 to fill the gap from yesterday, but probably some people hoping to get out at $5 on this.
let's go to where should we go? Let's go to Mallinckrodt. MNK. They're getting a pop this morning off their earnings. Q4 EPS $2.01 versus a $1.69 estimate. Sales of $792 versus $774 million. So good Q4 there for Mallinckrodt. The fiscal year guidance coming in, EPS at least coming in light. Sales growth of 3 to 6% for the year.
All right, this the stock getting out of the doghouse here. You just spiked up on that report. You hit 1840. You've lost 50 cents though, and you're now down under $18. Someone's protecting that 1840 area since making that high. You've had highs at 18 and a quarter, 1830, 1824. So it looks like overhead resistance here forming on Mallinckrodt here, and let me see if we got a daily high. There you got a daily high, monthly high too on this is 1843. So that's adding some credibility to that pre-market high.
Where should we go next? Chad, if there is specific earnings you want us to cover or stocks in general, just let us know again. Premarket.benzinga.com or on our YouTube chat, youtube.com/BenzingaTV. Let's go to...
we're getting a little kudos here from Phil Davis. He was pounding the table on Macy's a while ago, selling those puts. He just didn't think they'd go out of business, and it's right. It's paid well. Listen, I'm just curious here. You hit 31.10. Is it leaking at all here? Now still maintaining in the 30 handle. That pre-market high is now looking good.
At what point... how should I phrase this question? At what time does it have to hold in order for you to feel confident at the open? Like it'll hold at the open.
That high?
Yeah.
I mean, the longer it goes here, the more it's really starting to leak now. Okay. So you have that spike. I mean, your resistance is going to come down now because all the bots that bought it up over 31, now they're kind of scratching their head and saying, boy, I hope it gets back up to 31 for a scratch. So when they back off like this, it's always important for the open. You're going to have some institutional orders there as well. I mean, we're ripping through a couple different handles here. You even had sellers, what was the former high of the move here? The former high of the move was 27.64. So you're a couple bucks above that. I'm sure there's a lot of GTC orders. This thing might not even open above $30.
All right, let's go on to Dillard's, sticking in the retail space there. $2.82 versus $1.77, sales of 2.06 versus $2.03 billion in DDS. What is the chart showing us, Joel?
Nice pop in Dillard's, up $4 here, 75 even, right on the nose.
Any shares traded there? It looks like I got on my chart, it looks like an odd lot.
That odd lot maybe was at 76 and a quarter.
Okay.
But good call, Spencer. You're keeping an eye on the volume. Not a lot of volume behind this $4 move here, so that makes you a little bit cautious. Close at 70.93. The high of the move was made yesterday at 72.76. So let's see where the volume comes in. Good price discovery by Spencer there, noting the light volume. So that high tick 76 and a quarter. Let me give you a level here. Back in the middle of the year, back in the middle of 2017, you had a 76.90 high. So keep eye on that. It's $1.90 away.
Moving on to AutoZone, AZO reporting EPS for second quarter, $8.47 versus an $8.93 estimate, sales of 2.4 versus 2.39 billion. So coming in higher on these sales, but a big miss on the adjusted EPS there for AutoZone.
Yeah, had the big sell-off. Wow, we did get to 500 in the middle of 2017, 491.13. Then you climbed your way all the way back. Now getting back down to some lows here. Where are we trading at? 709.99. Let's see here. You have a couple daily lows, and this was in the month of February when we were melting down. Let's see what happens at 708. Pair of highs at 707.72, 707.90. Your April or your February 14th low, 704.64. So nice windfall here for shorts. Let's see if they use that old double bottom and the low just below that to bring it in.
Spinner in the chat asking about Palo Altos. We'll go to PANW. They reported yesterday after the bell, 97 cents versus a 79-cent estimate, sales of 542 versus $525 million. So a beat on the top and the bottom for the Q2. As far as Q3 guidance goes, coming in hot, very hot on the EPS, very hot as well on the sales. Both of those higher than the estimated fiscal year guidance, coming in higher across the board as well. So just all around guidance and earnings beats there for PANW.
Yeah, the stock has been on a roll. We're trading up $10.18 at 179.50. Haven't taken out that initial spike high. The initial spike high was 182.18. That was on the headline number. But you know what? You backed off, but not much below 178. So I don't know. I don't know if this one has enough to do here, a little bit more work to do on the upside, but certainly not giving back these gains and not giving them back very easily. Palo Alto, let's see. When's the last time we traded up near 180? No, you got to go back to February or December of 2015. There you had a 176.14 close. So if we go into retreat, take a look at that. But try and find some daily highs, folks. If you're looking for a level on the upside, go to December of 2015. A real bad month. Had a high of 194.73. Ended that month 176.14. Then dropped to the 150 area in January of 2016. So let's see if people waited a long time, sat on this stock, a Sean Udall favorite, back up in the 180. Oh, just knocked it off 180. We'll see what happens. Nice round number like 180, especially if you owned 172, 73. All these options are now going to be in the money. We'll see if people try and take it off.
All right, it is 8:14. We're going to take our first break of the day and grab a futures trader, Nicola Duke. You can find her analysis at nicktrades.com, and we'll be right back with Nicola in a moment. Welcome back, everyone. This is PreMarket Prep, Spencer Israel, Joel Elconin. We are now on with Nicola Duke. She's a forex trader. NickTrades.com is her site. Nicola, how's it going today?
Hey, really good, thank you.
All right, so what's on your radar this morning? We have Jerome Powell speaking today, kind of his first litmus test as Fed chair. But what's on your radar this morning?
Are you saying radar because she was a former air traffic controller, Spencer?
Oh,
is that what you
good,
got that
good one? I was not saying that, but
was
now I am.
Good link there.
That was
you
good,
guys are pros.
That was
you
good.
are.
That was good. So, okay, what is on your radar this morning?
Honestly, I'm really looking this month for some dollar strength. I like the dollar against if we're talking FX, I like the dollar against the Canadian. I like the dollar against the Scandinavian currencies. I think the euro is being really stubborn. So if you're looking at that, and the pound, if you're looking at that for guidance, then that's probably not the best pair, but the dollar Swiss as well. I really do think that we're about to see a big bounce for the dollar coming. So that's on my radar, which is not going to be very good for gold or other commodities. So, and we might have to wait, for a few days into next month, but that's on my radar.
Nicola, we're having we're sort of using this week as a promotional week for an event we're having in March 21st in Boston, the Women's Wealth Forum. And one of the things that we're doing is kind of just asking all of our guests to come on, sort of how they got into the game. And we touched on this earlier. You were in aviation before this, so how does one exactly make the jump from aviation to forex trading?
To be honest, this was originally, like I had, as a teenager, I traded stocks and shares thanks to my mom because she was really interested in the market. But when I went to Heathrow, before I went there, a chemical bank had conducted an experiment and recruited a bunch of traders to see if they could make hedge fund traders out of them, and most of them didn't make it. Only one made it, but the one who did absolutely smashed it. And she was a woman, and I was so jealous. I always sort of thought I had been there, that I wanted that to be me, and so it kind of fixed in my head. So, that was always my long-term goal, that I would learn to be a trader rather than an investor, and do it professionally if I could.
Okay, so you wanted to, but then how did you do it?
Basically, I made enough money so that I didn't have to stress. And for quite a long time, after I left Heathrow, I was running an air charter company in Canada, and I would get up. I would get up and trade the London Open at sort of 1:32 in the morning, and I would trade the London Open and then, have a nap and then do my day job, if you like, and did it that way. So that's kind of, I think, why I leaned to forex, because that was quite a good timing. I could do that way. And then when I decided I wanted to be, full-time professional, then I moved back to the UK so that I could do that. So, but it's quite hard, I think, for people, to make the jump from doing it professionally and supporting yourself to, you kind of need to have enough money to feel really comfortable, because when you need the money, you never trade very well. So,
right. We're on the line with Nicola Duke. She's a forex trader. You can follow her at nicktrades.com. Going a little bit off topic here, but just going back to your days working at Heathrow in the aviation, do you have a good story or any time where you were like, oh man, oh gosh, I can't believe I got into this field? Because it's got to be nerve-wracking, I mean, basically people have their life in your hands. Do you have a big storm or a cocky pilot, or do you have stories?
Oh my God, there were loads of those, and everybody would always try and jump the queue at Heathrow. So they would pretend they were ready when they weren't, so they could get in. So you had to check on them. But when anything bad was happening, like if an aircraft was coming in and one of the wheels wouldn't come down or something like that, and everybody was expecting, then you always tried to look away if you could, because then you didn't have to go to the board of inquiry. You could watch it on the TV like everyone else. I know that sounds really naughty. Like if you're in charge, then you have to watch. But if you were just bystanding, which luckily I was never quite in charge when anything really bad happened like that. But that's what I tried to do.
I was under the impression that jumping in the queue was against the law in the UK.
It pretty much is. That's why we clamped down on them.
Right.
The Italians, they were the worst.
Now, okay. I can't feel my Facebook in the chat wants to know what's more stressful, forex trading or being an air traffic controller.
Oh God, trading is just as stressful as being an air traffic controller. Like people don't realize, and it's all, they're both really stressful things. I think if there's one transferable skill, what you need to be able to do as a trader is feel that stress and still make good trading decisions. And so that would probably be the one transferable skill, I think, because if you can't, then you're always going to struggle.
So Nicola, you move in, you save up enough money, you go at it full time, to make a living at it. How did you sort of grow your network? Like, did you meet people, or like, how did you learn?
I really didn't, because, the first year, like, I think most people I know don't make money their first year, let's be honest,
right.
But I was lucky enough back then that everyone was on trading forums, and you would meet people on trading forums. We had a really cool group of people, and unbeknownst to me, one of the people I used to chat to on this trading forum worked for a really big hedge fund, and he was an FX trader, and he used to go around the FX forums looking for ideas. And he mentored me. And if it wasn't for him, I don't know that I would be profitable today, because he really kind of beat some sense into me as well. So, yeah, I was very lucky that way. Now I think people are all over social media. You can follow people all over the place, and that way. But lots of people will give you trading ideas, but not many people will beat sense into you about money management and risk management and controlling your emotions and that kind of stuff. So,
were there any unique challenges or advantages that being a woman had, at this time?
Not really. I think on the internet, because on a trading floor, especially in London, there are hardly any women, because it's all testosterone and really young guys, and they're really, really competitive. But I think the internet is a huge leveler of that. There's no reason why women shouldn't do as well as men nowadays, I think.
Nicola, you were looking at Bitcoin last time we had John, and yeah,
I look at crypto all the time. It's my passion. Crypto's my passion.
Okay, so when did we have you on? Was that before it tanked? I should have looked into my notes.
Yeah, Christmas. You had me on right before the New Year. I was in between Christmas and New Year, and I said, I remember, right then. I was like, take some profit.
It was December 29th is when we
had it. So that was right. So how did you handle the break there? And were you able to it got down to 6,000 at one point. I think we were all sleeping then. Now hanging out around 10,000. Talk about the technicals.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So I was kind of expecting like 12,000. So it's like went twice as far as I was expecting. So, but that's Bitcoin. It always goes the extra mile for you. It's really interesting to me, how correlated Bitcoin is with the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ and really? Bitcoin correlation is really good. Yeah, and so I'm quite bullish the NASDAQ, and I'm quite bullish Bitcoin here. I think people got really hurt by the sharp drops in both markets, and I think that they're a little bit too bearish at the moment.
Okay, you looking at any other cryptocurrencies? Or you just focus primarily on?
I'm a huge, no. I look at loads of them. There's a whole bunch of them. What tends to happen when Bitcoin makes a bottom, the confidence comes back a bit, and all the other bigger altcoins like Ethereum, Litecoin, even, not so popular ones like Ripple, Dash, they all kind of find some support and they rally behind Bitcoin, and then the kind of confidence widens out and we see the smaller altcoins rally. So what we're seeing at the moment is those, bigger altcoins get a bid and move higher. So they're doing quite well, and that's how I think it's going to unfold. So
yeah. Do you just trade them against each other?
It's quite hard in crypto if you're buying the actual coins and selling them to trade them against the US dollar. You can do it as CFDs, but you can't, we have the big selection. But I do. Yeah, I trade them against each other and against the dollar. So,
question out of the chat here. How many hours a day do you trade?
I hope my mum's not listening. Probably about 18.
Really?
I probably sit 15, 16 hours a day. I'm like, I work from home. I made a big office in my house, and it's the nicest room in my house. And so, yeah, I probably spend most of the time, like, I always know what price Bitcoin is.
Okay.
Siri's a bit sick of me asking.
So if we're sitting in your desk in your trading room here, what are you like, a 4, 5, 6 monitor person? A couple TVs?
I got 8 monitors,
Okay.
and my colleague James behind me, he has a few as well, and a TV and a sofa and a bench. So we're pretty comfy.
Okay. All right. Just any words of wisdom or advice I could say for, young ladies wanting to get into, finance or trading, and you could also, make it, more broad, applying it to anyone. Any words of wisdom?
Honestly, what a time to be alive. Really, I think we have no idea, the playing field is level for everybody. The information's there on the internet for everybody. Resources like you guys, like, it's amazing. It's so different from when I started. Like, I think it's a great time for anybody to dip their toe in and see if it's for them.
All right, Nicola Duke has been on the line with us from across the pond. She is at nicktrades.com is where you can follow her. She's a forex trader, and I guess now I call her forex/crypto trader Nicola. Thanks so much for the time, and I don't know what hour you're at in your day of 15-hour days, but I hope the rest of your day goes well.
Thanks. Thank you so much.
Great speaking to you. I love that accent.
Right.
Thank you.
8:27 now. Joel, how's Macy's? Are we leaking?
Let's see here. Let's go. I'll tell you right now, I've got the PANW. That's holding in there. I mean, it's not giving back. It's a Bulls and the Bears going at it at 180. Yep, Macy's back down at 30.05. So you had that quick spike. Using your whole number theory. I mean, that's about the only thing that would have got you here. Now you probably have some size accumulating in the book here. I mean, yesterday's close was down. Where was yesterday's close? Down at 27.45. So taking out the high of the move, which was was 27.64. So you've had sellers there on 4, 5, 6, 7 days. And the other people, well, I don't want 27.64. I want 28. And then there's people like, oh, no, I want 29. And then there's a lot of people in there saying, man, 30, if I could get out of my Macy's here at 30 after it traded down to, what was the low of the move there? 17.41. So sellers starting to accumulate here. I don't know if you're going to get enough paper in here to like hold down the open. We've talked about that strategy before, where there is, big institutional sellers and the designated market maker scoops them up at a low price and takes them up. But it doesn't look like that's going to be the scenario. Dancing are up and below the $30 level.
Let's move on. I guess we'll stick with earnings. There's a couple more, 1 or 2 more, but we can move on to anything after this. Let's do lumber liquidators real fast. LL reporting there this morning, Q4 EPS of 10 cents, that beat by a penny, and sales of 259 versus 264 million dollars. So a mixed report there for LL.
LL Lumber Liquidators, boy, that stock. Remember that drama on that thing?
Oh yeah.
Where was this, Spencer? You were about 2014. Were you still in high school, college?
No, I was not. I was in neither.
You were in neither?
I was not in college in 2014. No.
High school?
No. No.
Junior high?
Yes, I was in junior high.
Okay. Man, fall from grace. Who was that knocked that down? Whitney Tilson.
That was Whitney.
Yeah.
Good old Whitney.
Whitney's been kind of quiet, though.
He has been, yes.
Yeah. I mean, I see some emails coming in from him. But anyways, this stock recovered from a low, from aldehyde. Made a low at 10.01. Did that ever get in the – no, never got into single digits. 10.01. Then you hit $40 here, hit 41.33 back in September of last year. Now you're leaking back here in the $20 handle. Let's see. Getting a pop. You're up 25.70. I see one high that correlates there at 25.89 on Feb 12th. But if you can get through there, folks, 27.07. You might get another buck run up here. That was your February 9th high here in Lumber Liquidators.
Let's move on to some ratings. It's 8:31. We have a few minutes before our second guest, and so I'll just run through. One that caught my eye this morning was Chipotle catching an upgrade from Baird. Chipotle being upgraded to outperform from neutral at Baird there. So the second upgrade in as many weeks here from Chipotle. The first was Stiefel.
Yeah,
Stiefel last week.
And this all got kick-started by the change in the C-suite, right? They brought in the guy from Taco Bell. You like Taco Bell? You eat Taco Bell?
I like it in a certain how do I put
state.
This? Yes, certain state.
My mother-in-law loves it. You know what I call it?
Taco smell.
Taco hell.
Okay, my dad calls it taco smell.
Let's see here. CMG. You got an important technical level here. If you're a long trader or a short trader, you're trading up 611 on this. Not a lot of volume, but you cannot ignore the seller here in the 320 handle and a real major seller just under 325. You have your 3 and 4 day high at 324.44 and 324.47. But you know what? We haven't even cleared yesterday's high on this upgrade. 318.74. That was your high from yesterday, and looks like someone's trying to even wiggle out here at 318. So important that you clear that that high from yesterday. After that, you do have some room on the upside, but let's see if sellers step down off that 325 level. S&P's taking a little dive here, Luke. We just lost the 3-4 handles. Do we have any economic? I looked away for a second. Do we have any economic data here?
No, I don't think we had anything to this.
It's Powell.
Not at 8:30.
It's Powell. It's Powell. Risk to outlook. No, he's speaking. So whatever.
He's going right now.
Yep. So. Yeah, they did. We're off the lows of the session, 74.50. You're going to see durable goods, says Angie Baby. John Dotson says falling off Powell comments. There's a combination of events. So keeping an eye on your S&P 500 futures. Ratings. I kind of went on a tangent there.
No, it's okay. Not a ton besides Chipotle. We have a CRZO getting a downgrade this morning at KeyBank. I believe they had earnings. They had earnings yesterday, so they beat by a penny. And
they're down 288. What, do they have earnings or is just?
Yeah, they had earnings. They beat by a penny. Total production per day up 39% year over year.
Wow, someone is just walking this down here. They are just hammering this thing and not letting up, not even showing any signs of love. Don't tell owners of this stock that oil's near $64 because Crusoe oil and gas getting just annihilated here. What's the low of the move? I don't know if we're going to see that low of the move. Back in September, you hit 11.10, but the Bulls better make a stand here at 14.36. That was your low back in October. Haven't hit that. The decline is starting to slow down here, but decent volume trading on this one. So someone what's out of a piece, and your daily, it trades decent daily volume here, but boy, oh boy, not a good looking pre-market chart here.
All right, 8:34. Take our second break of the day. Go grab our second trader of the day, Tracy Shuchart. She's a commodities trader. She helped set up a hedge fund in Norway and was a prop trader after that at the Chicago Board of Trading. We'll be right back with Tracy. Welcome back, everyone, to PreMarket Prep. Spencer Israel, Joel Elconin, Dennis Dick on vacation this week
Disney World.
Disney World, but we are joined now by Tracy Shuchart. She's a commodities trader, former prop trader, worked at a hedge fund before that. Tracy, how's it going today?
Good. How are you guys? Thanks for having me back on.
Doing well. So we got Powell speaking as we speak. I'm not sure who's more important, but what are your thoughts on this market right now?
So, I mean, I'm kind of right now, well, everybody's kind of, we just had a statement from Powell, but he's going to be speaking at 10 a.m. So right now what I'm watching, what everybody else is watching is the dollar, because it affects the market that I trade oil a lot. So, that's kind of what I'm keeping my eye on this morning, as far as that's concerned. And the euro, of course, because it's also highly correlated to the oil market.
So, like, what specifically are you looking for in those markets? Like,
so,
what are you watching?
I mean, I'm watching. I need if we have a huge spike in the dollar, that'll probably send oil down, because right now a lot of these commodities, not just oil, are highly currency sensitive right now. So I know commodities traders in general are looking at sort of currencies right now. A little bit more than, inventory and everything else factors in, but right now currency is kind of on the forefront. So
you're mostly a commodities trader, correct?
Yes, I just trade.
Okay, so you
mostly oil. So 90%
oil.
of what I trade is oil, and then I do trade the euro, and then occasionally, what else is around.
So what, in your view, where are we at right now in the oil market, or what specifically are you watching for on the short term, and then we'll go long term?
So, in the short term, I think we're back up. We kind of had a fall there down to $58. Now we're kind of bid back up. We still have like a 10-to-1 long to short ratio. So I'm kind of looking for, $64, $65 area. I think it's going to be a real test to see if we're going to sort of have, we'll be right up there where we were before, to see if we, have some profit taking again. So I'm kind of watching that area to see kind of if positioning shifts. And because right now, fundamentals aside, it's all about positioning. And, if we have, we could have, a liquidity flush if people decide to roll over.
Tracy, you sort of have a career in trading. Before this, you're a prop trader. You worked at a hedge fund. Talk to us about sort of your career path.
So, well, I was living in California, and I was selling medical grade plastics, and it was a great living, but I hated what I did. So I decided one day that I was just going to quit my job, and I was going to move to Chicago and get in this field. So basically that's what I did. And I knocked on doors and begged to get a job. And my first job was at like a boiler room brokerage. No kidding. So that's kind of how I got my start, and I just moved my way up from there.
Why did you decide to go into that though? Like what appealed to you?
So, well, I had always been interested in it, and my dad was a commodities trader. So I think, it was kind of always there, and I just decided to go for it.
Were there, working in a boiler room especially, were there any unique challenges that being a woman posed for you? Or
absolutely. I was the only one I was the only woman in the firm. And back when I started there, not a lot of women. And so, I mean, basically I had to beg for the job, whereas it was kind of one of those jobs you could just answer an ad in the paper and pretty much anyone could get. I mean, you're like a calling monkey. You're calling 400 people a day trying to sell them options, right? So I mean, it was a big challenge for me to even get a position. So I just took any position that I possibly could. And back in those days, in order to get your Series 3, you had to be sponsored by somebody. So I had to get a job in order to get my Series 3 in order to move forward. So.
And then you just kind of built on it from there, right?
Yeah, then I really, I worked in the CBOT building. So I moved from a brokerage to, a better brokerage. And then, because I was in the same building as all of the floor traders, I met a bunch of floor traders and got an opportunity to go down and work on the floor. And so that's just kind of, it's really just networking. I was very fortunate to be in the building where all the trading was happening.
Do you have a good floor story? Do you have a good floor story for us?
Well, it was, let's see, like 2012, I think, was the summer of 8-hour corn, and everybody was freaking out. I don't know if you guys remember that or follow that. But we had one of our, I was managing the trade desk. I wasn't actually a trader on the floor. But, we went in with an order. It was an option order. And one of our traders actually filled it backwards.
Oh.
And we're like, it could have been, we were an institutional brokerage. So we were, executing for institutions. So basically it could have been like a $50,000 mistake that we would have to eat because it was our fault that we got the order backwards. So it was just a big sweat fest, and I had my charts up and I'm like, let's just wait a minute. The market's going to come back down. Market's going to come back down. We can get out of this. So it's just kind of sweating it out on the floor. And actually we ended up getting out of it. But, kind of a tense little
the old
deal there.
Was it buy versus sell, or because then you got to do the double amount to get out of it, or just kind of messed up?
Yeah, it was a spread. So we just had to we had to reverse the spread, but we had to leg. We had to leg it, whereas he sold it as a 1. But we couldn't get out of it that way, right? Because by then all the options prices are changing so rapidly. So we literally just had to sit there, sweat it out, and leg out of it, and ended up pretty undamaged.
You like to do some spread trading in the oil market. Talk to us a little bit about that. What are the advantages, disadvantages of trading spreads in oil?
Well, I trade calendar spreads. So, it's been kind of nice because we've had such a fluctuation. We went from contango to backwardation. So we've had a lot of movement in the spread. So it's kind of been a good opportunity as far as that's concerned. We've also had some big fluctuations between Brent and WTI price. So those spreads have been really great to trade lately. We went, almost up to $7, and we're now back down to 3-ish.
So, Tracy, talk to us a little bit about what your day-to-day routine is like as a full-time independent trader.
So I get up for a Europe Open. So I'm usually up at least 4 a.m. And then, I get my charts up. I check Twitter. I go through all of the reports that I get overnight, all the bank reports and things like that I get overnight. Kind of start my day that way. The oil market opens up at 9 a.m. So I kind of use those hours just to start prepping for my day, charting, where I think things are at, and catching up on reports, catching up on Twitter. I'm big on Twitter. And then, kind of my trading day is my trading day, but kind of when you're an independent trader, you're really never away from your office. So, I spend a lot of time, probably more time than a lot of people. I was listening to Nicola just before earlier this morning, and she was talking about spending like 15, 18 hours and, pretty much the same.
That's you, huh? I just want to ask you just also, the things that really move oil, obviously, news from OPEC, Russia, whatever politics, and the dollar's very important for oil. What about these numbers that come out after the close on Tuesday? And then I believe there's another number that comes out on Wednesday. Do you play into those numbers? Do you try and have a position going into them, or react to what's going on with your technical analysis?
Usually, the API number is the Tuesday night number, and it's it's a voluntary reporting system to a trade association. So I kind of really don't pay attention to that because there are often huge discrepancies between that and EIA. EIA is on Wednesday, and that's mandatory reporting to the government. And I mean, those numbers factor in, but usually, you know, I find with technical analysis, I mean, it kind of, you may get a jolt, like a kick in the market because of the number, but usually, you know, it subsides or it already moves in the direction of your technical analysis. So I pay attention to it. I don't play the numbers, so to speak. I'm usually either in a position before or, you know, I wait for the market to chill out and then get into a position.
Tracy, last question, and we'll let you get out of here. But what type of, what's like your biggest piece of advice you have for young people who are looking to get into trading?
I would say, you know, definitely it's a lot of hard work. It seems like it's not, but it's a lot harder work than you think it is. So, you know, be prepared to put a lot of time and effort into it. You know, and don't get deterred right away if it's something you really want. You know, just work for it like anything else. Also, it's also nice to have, you know, some sort of financial stability entering the market. I mean, I had, when I started, I, you know, quit my job, but, you know, I had a substantial savings already because I knew I wasn't going to be making money right away.
What was there like a hard lesson you learned right off the bat?
You know, don't get options orders wrong. You know, just I think you just really it's just I think it's, if you love it, it's not a job. You know, you wake up, you're excited for it every day. That's why I can spend so many hours in front of the screens and doing this, because I actually love it. If you don't, then it's going to be a lot more difficult for you.
All right, we have been on the line with Tracy Shuchart. She's an independent commodities, mostly oil trader. Tracy, thanks so much for the time this morning. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. Okay, you too.
All right. 8:48. We got about 12 minutes till our third. I guess we got a lot of guests on the show today. Joel, what are you watching this morning right now?
Still watching the S&Ps. It was a quick dip there. Went down near the lows of the session, but rebounded off those comments. So keeping an eye. S&P 79 even. That's down 550. The level here, level of control in the S&Ps here. Let's go to my trusty indicator here. Mid-range 2780.75. So that's mid-range on the day. We overtake that. I'll look for us to go back and challenge that high. The high was made in the 4 to 415 bracket. That buying just continued. Made the high at 2786, but found sellers there overnight at 2787. Watching this battle here at $30 in Macy's here. Sellers are being absorbed right now. Spinner pointing out here, just bouncing around, and you got a buyer here. And until you get rid of this buyer here at 29.81, 29.85, this is going to have a hard time going down. Really absorbing the volume here of the seller. Currently trading above $30, up to 63. And let's see what the volume is in Macy's. I'm sure it didn't trade last night. 1.8 million shares have traded in Macy's, so it will probably be well over 2 million before the open. Yesterday's volume, this is a pretty heavily traded stock, 14.2 million, and now you're going to be hitting 2 million real soon here in Macy's.
You were looking at, in the pre-market show, you were looking at Priceline. Today is the day that their ticker moves over, so it's no longer PCLN. Now it's BKNG, so Booking Holdings. But what were you seeing? Why are you looking at that chart?
The Booking Holdings?
Yeah.
I just haven't looked at this stock in a long time, and it had a nice recovery along with the remainder of the market. Finding resistance here. This is pretty interesting. Now, you got to give wide ranges here, right? When you talk about nearly a $2,000 stock. Trading at 1,900 right now, down 564. A couple of highs at the end of January, early February, 1928.84 and 34.97. You got back up to that area, but not quite, 1926. So this is called 1930. If you do go into our rally mode here in Priceline, coming back on the downside, since you made that bump up over 1,900, you find you got good support, a pair of lows in the 1870 handle, your 3-day low 1870.72, and then your 2-day low 1875. So wide ranges there. The options, I'm sure if you have traded this, all your positions will transfer over as today. And why do they change the name again, Spencer?
Because they own a lot more than just Priceline.com. They own Booking.com. They've got a few other pretty well-known holdings. So I think they just wanted to encompass all
this
that.
This is kind of the year of the name change, huh? Or a simple change?
Why do you say that?
BlackBerry? When did they?
That was like 2 years ago.
No, they changed their symbol recently.
Okay, they did. Maybe I missed that.
And then who else pulled that trick? Oh, the worst name change of all time.
American Outdoor Brands.
That Coach.
Oh right, right. This is last year, right? Coach, and then AOBC was Tapestry. was Smith and Wesson.
Isn't Tapestry like the stuff that you like? Drapes and stuff like that? No? Am I wrong on that?
Okay, one more. I want to do earnings, and then we'll get to some tickers in the chat. Veritone reported yesterday after the bell, VERI, moving this a little bit this morning. Q4 EPS, 83-cent loss versus $4.12 loss in the same quarter last year. Sales $3.5 million versus $4.4 million was the estimate there on VERI.
What a fall from grace in this stock. I remember covering this with Jason Shubnow, seeing this thing run up. It was just a little old Barron's article, and man, talking about AI, how they were going to compete with Google and Apple, and boom, that stock went to 74.92, and then I think it got citroned. I'm not really sure, but we've come back down, and if you didn't think you could go any lower, folks, you're wrong here. We are trading down in pre-market trading 308. Let's see here. You got a low at 15 even. Not a lot of volume is knocking this down. You have a low of the, well, let's see what the low of the move. The low of the move here is 1327, but I really want to see what happens in the middle 14 handle. You had a 1491 low on the 14th, and that was backed up by 1446 and 1424. So let's see what happens in the lower to middle $14 handle here. I don't know. I mean, you
got to think if it breaks below 14 that we're heading for
that where it was. Well, the whole move emanated from gosh, I can remember reading this thing. I can remember like, I'll try and buy this thing up a little bit. This was in August. The move started from 776, and I got to see where the gap is in here. Very teeny gap. The Positive Barron's article came out, closed at 787, opened 845, and then it missed filling the gap by 7 cents. 1813 was the high, 820, and then took off after that. But I guess they're not liking the report here in Veritone.
All right, questions from our chat now on American Tower AMT. They're reporting this morning Q4 EPS 51 cents versus 74-cent estimate, sales of 1.71 versus $1.69 billion. So a miss on the EPS by a pretty good amount, and a slight beat on the sales for AMT.
Very little volume traded here. 35 shares traded at 144.74. Actually make that a grand total of 135 shares have traded. So $2. Don't know if you put a lot of credibility into that. The daily charts are not giving you much to lean on here. 146.29. That's $1.50 away if you want to look at that as a potential exit point. And the day previous to that, you had another high in the 146 handle. So I'll call 146.50 pretty good resistance. If you're looking for a gap fill on this thing to get into yesterday's session, you need to sneak under 143, 142.95. Was yesterday's high with a close at 142.74.
All right, ticker's flying now in the chat. Where do we go? Let's go in the YouTube chat. Let's look at BBRY. Or that was BlackBerry, right?
But that's not BlackBerry anymore.
Right. So what was it? BB? Is that it?
Yeah, I think they changed it to BB,
Yeah,
right?
BB. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. BlackBerry Limited. Boom, boom. Came hard off the 1450 level, trading up 4 cents here. Tight range yesterday. What I've been looking for here, really want to see follow through. Two highs, 1264, 1267. If you can actually clear that area, you might get a shot here at $13. Pair of highs, 1290. Well, a bunch of highs near 13. If you go back January 30th through February 2nd, you had 1, 2, 3, 4 highs right at the 1295, 13 even level.
Dick's getting a shout out in the pre-market chat. DKS last headline. I don't recall seeing this. I guess I missed this last week, but they raised their dividend from 17 cents to 22.5 cents per share.
I looked at the chat and I missed your symbol.
Dick's.
Oh, okay. Dick's Sporting Goods. Let's take a look. DKS. I know this thing got cheap too a while ago and had a nice rally, trading up 28 cents here. Man, someone has an opinion here at 34. I don't know. You have 3 highs from the last 3 sessions at 33.33, 33.30 area. So you got a first area of resistance to take out. But if, in fact, you can clear that, folks, $34, that's a level you need to keep an eye on. You peaked on February 14th at 34.14, and then your next 1, 2, 3, 4 lows are right at that $34 area. So institution, big trader here, trying to wiggle out of some Dick's Sporting Goods at 34. And how did HIBB do yesterday? They reported. I want to see what kind of follow through. You had the high open. I hope we gave you this number. Opened at your high tick of 26.35. Boom. That was only a dime over the high of the move at 26.25. Then things turned red pretty quickly. That closed at 24.70. That's off the low of the session, 23.90. But that's your big level moving forward. Call it $24 at a 24.15 low back in February. So pretty good, well-defined support and resistance in HIBB.
I want to look at Apple just because we had a Bloomberg report yesterday that they're going to release 3 new iPhone models later this year, which seems kind of crazy.
Like, why do they need 3 new ones? What one am I on? Am I on like 4 or 5 or 6? Do you know which one this is?
You are.
5S?
You're on like 5,
okay.
5S. Yeah,
and it's fine with me. Just a torrid run here, leading the market higher, getting back all those losses. And now, what you do yesterday? You hit 179.39, backed off 178.97, folks, and don't bat an eyelash here. You're back up here. Oh, what's your all-time high? How nice. Using a whole number here. 180.10. That was your high on January 18th. Nice whole number, 180. So only $1.10 away. Your all-time closing high, missed it yesterday. Your all-time closing high is 179.26. So if you're looking for intermediate number ahead of that all-time high, keep an eye on that all-time closing high. Okay, Spence, 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock. Normally, this is when we end the show, but not this week. So we're going to take another break and grab Kate Stalter. Better Money Decisions is her site. I'll be right back with Kate. Welcome back, everyone. Pre-Market Prep, Spencer Israel, Joel Elconin. Now we're joined by Kate Stalter. She is the founder and CIO of Better Money Decisions. Kate, how's it going this morning?
I'm doing really well. Really excited to talk to you guys today.
Kate, most of the people we have on our show, we tend to take a shorter-term view of the market. A lot of our guests are traders. Joel, Dennis, obviously, themselves traders. You have a little bit of a longer outlook, a longer time horizon. So, I guess, what would you say is your overall thesis on how to approach investing? Your overarching hypothesis or beliefs?
Well, yeah, I mean, and you kind of alluded to it in what you said right there. It's sort of the difference between trading and investing. I started out as a trader. I worked for Investors Business Daily for 10 years. I actually hosted my own radio show called the Small Cap Roundup that was about trading small cap stocks. So I'm very well versed in technical analysis and chart reading. And there's definitely a point to using moving averages, volume, trends. I don't dispute any of that whatsoever. But there's also a role for more long-term investing where you have the scientifically determined expected returns. And when I say scientifically determined, I mean just based on years of Nobel Prize winning research. And I'm sure a lot of the folks in your audience, kind of when they hear the term efficient markets, they kind of scoff. I get that. I understand that there's plenty of reason that if you're very steeped in only trading, that you kind of think, no, there's no market efficiency there. But there definitely are ways to allocate your portfolio to take advantage of the expected returns of different asset classes. Because that's one thing, traders tend to, and I get this, traders tend to focus on maybe a few different types of asset classes. I know folks who trade, the S&P futures. Of course, there's crypto now. There's forex. I get that. But really, when you're looking at asset allocation across the broad spectrum, you want to include every sort of asset class possible. So U.S. stocks, small caps, large caps, all the different sectors and industries. So yes, you're going to have technology companies involved in blockchain. You're going to have the precious metals. You're going to have international companies, and you're going to have some bonds as well, just to add some ballast and stability. So that's kind of the big picture there of where I approach this. Having started out as a trader, it definitely gives me a different perspective on the longer term goal-based investing.
How did you start out as a trader? Like, why did you get into this in the first place?
How did I start out as a trader? It really was just one of those things that you don't really plan to do, that you just, I had gotten out of my MBA program. This was back in the late 90s. And I worked at a .com company, actually, right back that was the height of the .com boom. And that's where all the freshly minted MBA grads were going into that business at the time. And that kind of, if you recall, March 2000, when the whole .com boom kind of collapsed, at that point, I started looking around for something else that I could do. And I got hired at Investors Business Daily and became a market editor over there, became one of the teachers. I traveled around the country teaching the Investors Business Daily trading system using price and volume, momentum, moving averages, different oscillators. And that was really how I got into it. I just had thought it seemed like a pretty interesting thing to do and to use my MBA education in finance.
Someone in our chat just commented, hey, I used to listen to that show. So it's a small world. Kate, we're using this week to sort of promote Benzinga's Women's Wealth Forum on the 21st, in March 21st in Boston. Speaking specifically about your experience with women, as they invest, what's like the biggest piece of advice you can give specifically to them?
Yeah, it really is longevity. That's the issue here. And that affects men too. I don't want to suggest that it doesn't, because it most certainly does. More and more Americans are living to 100. And particularly, Spencer, we've got the people who are well educated, have been high earners. You have an even greater chance of living to 100. And then I think most people just kind of know this anyway. When you look around at older folks, maybe in your life, older couples, isn't it more typical that the husband passes away first? You tend
maybe. I don't. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
Statistics.
Well, take a look around. Just
support
look
that.
around at older folks, and see how many like older women who are widows as opposed to older men who are widowers. And it is actually true that the average life expectancy of a person who reaches 65 years old, at that point, you on average are going to live for about another 20 years. For women, it's about 2 years longer. So there's some statistics somewhere. I don't have it in front of me, but most women are going to be single in their older years because their husbands pass away first. So what does that mean? Why is that so important? Particularly in the older generation, and I think even your demographic of listenership, it's probably pretty heavily skewed male. And just, men tend to be more interested in markets kind of as a hobby, as something interesting to do, or sort of saying, I'm going to take on the investment for the family. And that's great because, a lot of couples divide it up this way. The husband handles the investment and maybe the wife handles the bill paying and that sort of thing. And on the surface of it, that sounds like a pretty fair division of labor. But in reality, it often leaves women clueless if their husband passes away. So that's really one thing is I would encourage, and the women who are listening to your show, they're already there. They're already at that point of saying, yeah, I am interested in the investing, in the trading, in our financial picture, and our brokerage accounts, and our retirement accounts. But this idea of women just kind of handing over the control to their husbands and just saying he knows what he's doing, and no offense intended to anybody, but these guys don't always know what they're doing. And again, we're not talking about the folks in your audience. We're talking about people that don't really follow this closely. So let me give you an example. This is really funny. I have a client who his girlfriend believes that he is very knowledgeable about markets and is a good investor. He'll say to me privately, he'll go, don't tell her I don't know what I'm doing. So,
okay.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. You sort of, so I think the thing is, whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, you can't abdicate these decisions to your partner, because the reverse is also true. We have clients where it's the woman who kind of is the driver of the investments for the couple, and the guy kind of doesn't know that much. And I would say either one doesn't matter. You should not abdicate these responsibilities to your partner, because in case something happens to him or her, you don't want to be left in the dark and be saddled with decisions that you may not have agreed with.
It's a very interesting point you bring up, in terms of division of labor and paying bills versus, managing the investments, because that you're right. It seems like that's a fair split. That's an even trade. You do this, I'll do that, but they're not quite paying bills. It's not the same thing as managing investments. That's a whole different beast. So that's a really
right.
good point.
Yeah, it really is. Because and even on the bill paying side, if you don't leave the passwords handy and share that information, once again, if something happens to you, your partner could be in some trouble there if they don't know what's going on. So yeah, but particularly with the investments, I mean, I've seen a lot of sad stories, Spencer. I've seen older women whose husbands passed away, and they had left everything in his hands. And then when you see it, it's just a big mess. It's not appropriate. And, I think it's hard for people to ask for help with this stuff. And I think that was particularly true with older generations, because also the beliefs were different. If you think about, if you ever look at like the portfolio maybe that your grandparents have or something, that it would be mostly all these big U.S. stocks. So it's basically like they're owning the Dow, but as a bunch of single stocks. And that particular investment approach, while it made sense for older generations, it doesn't make sense anymore. We have no reason to do that because we have access to all these international investments. We have access to all the different market caps. I mean, the world has changed. So this is particularly what I see with older couples is we get in portfolios that consist of, GE, General Motors, some oil companies, maybe some Apple, maybe some Google, but often not. Often it's just a bunch of really old school industrials, not really even any techs per se. And just the world has changed. We don't need to do that anymore. So I guess to circle back to your original question is why does this matter for women? It's whoever you are, male, female, transgender, it doesn't matter to me. Whoever you are, you need to have a portfolio that is appropriate for your risk tolerance, for your goals in life, for your age. There's just a number of factors that go into it. And I think historically, all too many women have kind of abandoned that, believing it's too complicated. And it's really not. And just paying attention to your own investment, your own retirement plan, that's just in your own best interest. And why would you not protect yourself?
You mentioned GE here. Do you want to give any comments on that stock? It's been in a world of hurt lately. If not, if you want to pass on it too, that's certainly fine. But GE, the dog of the dogs of the Dow here, getting on your radar yet, or is you going to let them figure things out first?
Well, you know what, Joel? I'm glad you brought that up because that is exactly the point I would make about that is it shows you the risk of single stocks.
True.
Yep. Why, if you're betting your portfolio, and again, I'm not talking about trading. I am totally fine that if a person wants to carve out a little portion of his or her portfolio and do some trading, some speculating, I have no issue with that. I get it. It's interesting. It's fun. You can make some money. I get that. But let me give you an example because I mean, GE is a great example because if you say, hey, I'm going to load up a heavy portion of my retirement portfolio on General Electric, well, you don't know. You don't know what could happen on a single company, and having more companies smooths out your risk. So let me give you a really good example of something I heard about recently. I think you guys will get a kick out of this one. I knew of somebody who a few weeks ago wanted to purchase a large allocation of WYNN, WYNN, okay, the casino stock. So the very next day after he purchased this, what do you think happened? The allegations about Steve Wynn came out in the media. And then all of a sudden, talk about being in a world of hurt. That particular stock was in a world of hurt. Now, I think I haven't looked at the chart in a few days, but I think it's settled down a bit. So it really didn't turn out to be that devastating, I don't think. But the point is, it cratered due to single stock risk the very next day, whereas markets as a whole, the diversified market, held up just fine. They were not affected by Steve Wynn's allegations.
All right, we've been on the line with Kate Stalter, dropping some knowledge on us from Better Money Decisions. If you want to keep listening to her, go to bettermoneydecisions.com is her site. You can also find her at realmoney.com and on Morningstar. Last I checked, Kate, thanks so much for the time and the insights. Very much appreciate you coming on. Have a good rest of your day.
All right, thanks so much. Bye-bye.
At 9:15 now, we're going to take a final break of the day and grab a special guest, one of our listeners. She goes by Angie Baby in our chat, and we will be right back in a moment. Welcome back, everyone. Pre-Market Prep, Spencer Israel, Joel Elconin, now joined by another listener, yet another in a continuing series of listeners coming on this show. She goes by Angie Baby in the chat. You can also call her Angie. How's it going today?
Fantastic. How are you guys?
Doing good. Real question, where are we talking to you from?
Florida.
Florida. Okay.
Yeah.
Where in Florida?
I'm on the East Coast. I'm in Martin County, so I'm right above West Palm Beach.
Okay. Yep. Got some family down there. So, Joel, I think you and Joel had spoke previously about a week ago, and I don't know what you guys talked about, but you want to just pick up that conversation wherever it left off, Joel?
Sure. Well, real quickly, tell our listeners how you found the show. You kind of jogged my memory on that, but how'd you become the number one fan of Benzinga's Pre-Market Prep?
All right. Well, you guys are great. I love you guys. So I've been trading. I've been interested in the markets really since 1993 when CNBC first came public. I think Maria Bartiromo was kind of my inspiration. And also I had a family friend that worked for JP Morgan as a trader. And she really said to me, you know what? There's not a lot of women in this field. This is the way to go. So I found you guys because I started trading really with her back then. I was 15 years old at the time. And I've been doing education, tons of it. So how I stumbled upon you was, it was a Saturday, 7-8 years ago on MarketFi. And they were doing a Saturday conference on MarketFi, maybe 6 years ago. And you and Dennis were one of the presenters. And you're talking about how you keep it simple, stupid. And I was thinking to myself, that's great because I make money in the markets keeping it simple. And I liked your thoughts. I liked the way you presented. And then I found that you were talking about the show, which started after that, actually. And
this is pre-market prep. You're really going back now.
Yeah, I've been trading a long time. So yeah.
that was before the show. So you guys, Joel and Dennis started the show, and then how did you kind of keep that, build upon that foundation?
So as I said, I know a lot of smart people in a lot of great places. I grew up in Fairfield County, Connecticut, and my last place of residence was Westport, and it's surrounded by hedge funds. And I've just been building my education in general. You name it, I've done it. I'm mostly an investor. I'm a macro investor, actually, which is kind of out of favor now. But I like it.
So tell us about like how you use the show. I know that you have a young child, so you can't always be at your computer at 8 a.m. in the morning. So just tell us how you listen to the show and then like how you integrate it into your plan.
Okay. So when I listen to you guys in the morning, a lot of times I can't even listen in real time because, I have a young baby that I bring to school. So typically what I'll do is listen to it after the fact, and I'll listen to your guests. I listen to most of the show, and then I'll listen to your guests. And I know when they say something, I'll look into who it is. If it's somebody I don't know, you basically have the same guests on. So what I'll do is know that if they recommend something, like Mark Chaikin a few weeks ago had recommended shorting Shaq. He wasn't right on the earnings report, but I tell you what, I sold that trade very profitably. So I'll look and see who it is. Like there are certain guests like Nick Shaheen talks about Priceline. I know that when he talks about it, I can do something with that. You basically I've been with you so long that I know how these people's trading style. And if they say something that's kind of offlandish for what they would normally do, that's when I know it's a good opportunity to take it. Like that, like you guys we were talking about Macy's this morning. Phil Davis was on in November and gave a fantastic Macy's trade about, I think it was shorting. I don't have my notebook in front of me, but it's shorting buying puts and calls on Macy's around $20. Well, if you did that, he said it would be a $5,000 plus trade. It certainly was. So I think a lot of information you can use here, and it's just applying it to your own trading style or investing.
And then when we talked before, there was some actual guests that you almost pulled the trigger. I don't know if you did it in the pre-market or you waited to the open. Give us a couple of those guests that you hit the old keyboard and got involved.
Okay, so Gordon Johnson is fantastic. He really is fantastic. Mark Chaikin's fantastic. Kohl's, I bought Kohl's on Mark Chaikin. I bought it at $46. She was talking about going long for earnings. This was again back in October. I bought it at $46. We're at $69 today.
Still have it? Do you still have it?
I just sold it, actually.
Okay.
I just sold. First Solar, when Gordon Johnson was talking about that, I also bought CSIQ and JASO on that trade. I bought all three. I made money on all three. And his thesis was so well put out. I mean, it was a no-brainer to me. It was just so well thought out. Those are two that I actually did live with you guys. I'm trying to think. I've done a whole bunch of
Reverend?
stuff.
What about the one Reverend Emmanuel Lemelson? Didn't he give you? Hib
is, oh my God, Hib was great. And, he was, again, another person with a lot of conviction. So I am someone with intense conviction in my trading and my investing. And when I hear somebody or read somebody who's really has it, he has conviction in his trades. And I also love from him the domino short, because that's the biggest manipulated stock ever, in my opinion. All they do is buy back, buy back, buy back. I don't even know a person who eats Domino's. So,
okay.
Oh, you do? Okay. See, maybe, and maybe in college I did, but that was like 20 years ago.
Okay. All right. What about you? That you said you take notes during the show, or did you tell me that sometimes you like rewind and play it back? Do you do that sometimes?
Yes, I do. Because like going back to Gordon Johnson or even the Reverend, they make comments that are important when you're putting together your investment thesis. I don't go into anything blind, and I like to at least know what's going on. And when I first hear something, I look into it. But I had heard in Gordon Johnson's case and the Reverend, I'd heard them for the last couple of years with you guys. So I know that when they say to do something, you can do it. But when you have other guests on, I'll look into it and see, okay, this makes sense to me. This will fit into my portfolio. This will.
Do you short stocks at all?
I do. I short a check. I do. I short a check and made money on it. So yeah, I do short. And actually you can make a lot more money on the short side than you can on the long side.
Yeah, that's a good quote there. And then just before the chat's loving this. I can't feel my Facebook.
Okay.
Say you're a great guest. I know you're a little bit nervous coming on. You're doing a fantastic job. I don't know. Might have to move you up here and get Spencer out of that chair. But you talked about the psychology of trading. And, I could tell you're a pretty easygoing person and everything. Like, just talk about the psychology of the trading, how you manage it. Like, if you just like hit a couple stinkers in a row, do you walk away? How do you handle the psychology of trading?
I'm so glad you asked me. That's really important. I think a lot of people trading or investing don't have a grasp on that. You really need to have ice in your veins. You have to in this field. This is one field that tests every emotion in your body. If you think about it, every time it's money, right? And we're all emotional about money because we're humans. So I think you're talking about when the market tanked, when we hit, 25 overnight in the futures. That was last week, right? With the XIV blow up. I think that you have to stick with your being convicted and stick with it and know that what goes up must come down and vice versa. And if your fundamentals are intact, which I really don't know what changed as of 3 weeks ago versus, December to January, we didn't have a big change there. All the economics look sound. So to me, I knew that I like what I see and I'm staying the course. That was actually a fantastic opportunity. And if you look over the last, at least as long as I've been trading, you look over the last 20 years, let's say, most of those huge dips, the fundamentals are intact. They're buying opportunities. For me, the fundamentals tell me what to buy. The technicals tell me when to buy or take a look.
Great question.
I think it's really important. Psychology, harness it. You'll be a much better trader, investor. You have to harness it and just be convicted. That's the best thing I can say.
We have a great question from Rob in the chat. So you use guests as confirmation for your trades, right? Is that fair to say?
It's fair. Yes, I do get trading ideas from your guests. Yes.
So how does that work? Are you you're always doing your own research, or are you at a point right now where Gordon Johnson says to sell, buy for Solar, you're buying for Solar, or because Dennis says he does it all the time. Are you always going back and doing your own research, or how does that work?
Okay. So when you have a guest on, like I said, it depends on the guest. Certain guests I know, like I could tell you, Gordon Johnson's one I'll buy on the fly. Mark Chaikin's one I'll buy on the fly. Nick Shaheen, he doesn't really give trades, but he gives a great analysis. I'm not that great with the chart, I'll be honest, but I can see what's on there, but I can't tell you, cup and handle, all this other stuff, but people like that can. And when you start to explain it, it makes sense. So him I'll buy on the fly. And then, if it's somebody new that you have on, there was a biotech guy you had on, Life Sciences, I think it was. He was on a while ago, and he was talking about Biogen and Allergan.
Jonathan
and I have
Wexler,
been for a long time. So what he said backed up my thesis that I already had. So that was when I was convicted. I was like, you know what, I can add here, because here's somebody who's got a lot of money with him, who does more research than I do, and it just adds to my thesis.
One more question for you. I'm looking in the background there. Are those all your notes from the pre-market show hanging up on the wall?
No, that's actually a book, but I'll tell you what, this is no joke. These are all of my notes. This is just in general. You could see my TBT trade. These are all of my notes from guests you guys have had. I make notes every day. I get up at 5:45 and I read about 15 publications every morning that I browse through for financial information. And I've been doing that for 15 years. So it gives me an idea of what's going on all over the world in the markets. I can get a really good picture of what I think today will bring and what I think my week will bring. And I make a plan every night and every weekend.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
Spencer, you want to wrap things up there?
Angie Baby has been with us in the chat. Next time you see her, she's not in there at the moment, but next time you see her in the chat, just say what's up. This was a great interview. Thank you so much for the time, and good luck today.
Thanks for having me, guys. You're great. Have a great day.
Have a good one. It is now 9:29. So this is going back to the old school days, Joel, when you and I used to go until 9:45. Remember those? Those were the days. Anyway, and there's the open. So we'll let you go off that. Hope you guys enjoyed the show and had a good morning, and hope you join us again tomorrow. Don't forget, bzforum.com is the Benzinga Women's Wealth Forum. If you type in the promo code PMP to bzforum.com, you can get a discounted ticket on that. Have a good day, folks. We'll see you tomorrow.